folks, welcome back to my channel. Today we're here to continue our read aloud read along of Maya Angelou's memoirs. We're now on her second book, Gathered Together in My Name, and we're up to chapter 7. If you're new to the series, if you're new to the channel and you'd like to start at the beginning, whether the beginning of this book or the beginning of the series, both playlists will be linked in the description box down below, so you can start wherever you need to. Today we're going to continue with chapter 7, which in this edition of the book begins on page 24, so I'll start reading. If you have a copy of the book, read along with me. Otherwise, you can just listen to me read. Chapter 7. Love was what I had been waiting for. I had done grown-up things out of childish ignorance or juvenile bravado, but now I began to mature. I became pleased with my body because it gave me such pleasure. I shopped for myself carefully for the first time, searching painstakingly for just the right clothes instead of buying the first thing off the rack. Unfortunately, my taste was as new as my interest. Once, when Curly was to take me out to dinner, I bought a smart yellow crepe dress with black roses, black baby doll shoes whose straps sank a full inch into my ankles, and an unflattering wide coolie hat with veil. I pinned a small cluster of yellow rosebuds on my bosom and was ready for the fray. He only asked me to remove the corsage. Curly had said at the beginning of our affair that he had a girl who worked in a San Diego shipyard and her job would be up soon. Then they'd go back to New Orleans and get married. I hastily stored the information in that inaccessible region of my mind where one puts the memory of pain and other unpleasantries. For the while, it needn't bother me, and it didn't. He was getting out of the Navy and only had a couple of months before all his papers would be cleared. Southern upbringing and the terror of war made him seem much older than his 31 years. We took my son for long walks through parks. When people complimented us on our child, he played the proud papa and accepted. At Playland on the beach, we rode the Ferris wheel and looped the loop and gooed ourselves with saltwater taffy. Late afternoons, we took the baby back to the sitter and then went to his hotel in one more or two more or three more love parties. I never wanted it to end. I bought things for him. A watch, he already had one. A sports coat, too small, another ring, and paid for them myself. I couldn't hear his protestations. I wasn't buying things. I was buying time. One day after work, he took me to the sitter's. He sat and held the baby. His silence should have told me something. Maybe it did, but again, I didn't want to know. We left in a quiet mood. He only said, "I want me a boy like that, just like that." Since we weren't heading for the hotel, I asked where we were going. "I'm taking you to your house." "Why?" No answer. He found a parking space a half block away. The street lights were just coming on and a soft fog dimmed the world. He reached in the back seat and took out 2 large boxes. He handed them to me and said, "Give me a kiss." I tried to laugh, to pretend that the kiss was payment for the gifts, but the laugh lied. He kissed me lightly and looked at me long. "Reed, my girlfriend is here. I'll be checking out of the hotel tonight." I didn't cry because I couldn't think. "You're going to make some man a wonderful wife. I mean it. These things are for you and the baby. I hate to say goodbye, but I gotta." He probably said more, but all I remember is walking from the car to my front door, trying for my life's sake to control the angry lurchings of my stomach, trying to walk upright carrying the awkward boxes. I had to set down the boxes to find the door key, and habit fitted it into the lock. I entered the hall without hearing him start the car. Because he had not lied, I was forbidden anger. Because he had patiently and tenderly taught me to love, I could not use hate to ease the pain. I had to bear it. I am certain, with the passage of time, that he loved me. Maybe for the loveless waif I was. Maybe he felt pity for the young mother and fatherless child and so decided to give us what we both needed for 2 months. I don't know. I'm only certain that for some reason he loved me and that he was a good man. The loss of young first love is so painful that it borders on the ludicrous. I even embarrassed myself. Weeks after Charles left, I stumbled around San Francisco, operating in the familiar. The lovely city disappeared in my fog. Nothing I did to food made it interesting to me. Music became a particular aggravation, for every emotional lyric had obviously been written for me alone. Gonna take a sentimental journey, gonna set my heart at ease. Charles had taken that journey and left me all alone. I was one emotional runny sore. To be buffeted about emotionally was not new. Only the intensity and reason were. The new pain and discomfort were physical. My body had been awakened and fed, and suddenly I discovered I had a ravenous appetite. My natural reticence and habit of restraint prevented me from seeking other satisfaction, even if it could be found. I began to lose weight, which, with my height and thinness, I could ill afford to do. The burst of energy which had propelled me to beauty salons and dress shops was now as absent as my gone lover. I longed and pined, sighed and yearned, cried and generally slouched around feeling dismal and bereaved. By 18, I managed to look run down, if not actually run over. My brother Bailey again was my savior, a role he fulfilled most of my early years. He returned to the city after some months on an ammunition ship and came to the restaurant to see me. "My, what the hell's happened to you?" The way I looked seemed to anger rather than worry him. I introduced him to my employer. She said, "Your brother? He awful little, ain't he? I mean, to be your brother." Bailey thanked her smoothly, allowing just the tail of his sarcasm to flick in her face. She never noticed. I said, "What's the matter with you? Have you been sick?" I held in the tears that wanted to pour into my brother's hands. "No, I'm okay." I thought at the time that it was noble to bear the ills one had silently, but not so silently that others didn't know one was bearing them. "What time do you get off?" 1 o'clock. "I'm off tomorrow, so I'm going out to get the baby. I'll be back and take you. Then we can talk." He turned to Mrs. Dupree. "And a good day to you too, madam." Bailey did little things with such a flourish. He might have been the Count of Monte Cristo or Cyrano saying farewell to fair Roxanne. After he had gone, Mrs. Dupree grinned her lips into a pucker. "He's as cute as a little bug." I busied myself amid the pots. If she thought likening my big brother to an insect would please me, she had another think coming. The baby crawled around the floor of my room as I told Bailey of my great love affair, of the pain of discovery of pain. He nodded understanding and said nothing. I thought that while I had his attention, I might as well throw in my other sadness. I told him that because my old schoolmates laughed at me, I felt more isolated than I had in Stamps, Arkansas. He said, "He sounds like a nice guy, and I think it's time for you to leave San Francisco. You could try Los Angeles or San Diego. But I don't know where I'd live or get a job." Although I was miserable in San Francisco, the idea of any other place frightened me. I thought of Los Angeles, and it was a gray, vast sea without ship or lighthouse. I can't just steer Guy away. He's used to the woman who looks after him, but she's not his mother. I've got a good job here. But surely you don't mean to make cooking Creole food your life's work. I hadn't thought about it. "I have a nice room here. Don't you think it's nice?" He looked at me squarely, forcing me to face my fears. "Now, Mai, if you're happy being miserable, enjoy it, but don't ask me to feel sorry for you. Just get all down in it and wallow around. Take your time to savor all its subtleties, but don't come to me expecting sympathy." He knew me too well. It was true. I was loving the role of jilted lover, deserted yet carrying on. I saw myself as the heroine, solitary, standing under streetlight's soft yellow glow, waiting, waiting. As the fog comes in, a gentle rain falls but doesn't drench her. It is just enough to make her shiver in her white raincoat collar turned up. Oh, he knew me too well. If you want to stay around here looking like death eating a soda cracker, that's your business. There are some rights no one has the right to take from you. That's one. Now, what do you want to do? That evening, I decided to go to Los Angeles. At first, I thought I'd work another month, saving every possible penny. But Bailey said, "When you make up your mind to make a change, you have to follow through on the wave of decision." He promised me $200 when his ship paid off and suggested that I tell my boss that I'd be leaving in a week. I had never had $200 of my own. It sounded like enough to live on for a year. The prospect of a trip to Los Angeles returned my youth to me. My mother heard my plans without surprise. You're a woman, you can make up your own mind. She hadn't the slightest idea that not only was I not a woman, but what passed from my mind was animal instinct. Like a tree or a river, I merely responded to the winds and the tides. She might have seen that, but her own mind was misted with the knowledge of a failing marriage and the slipping away of the huge sums of money which she had enjoyed and thought her due. Her fingers still glittered with diamonds, and she was a weekly customer at the most expensive shoe store in town. But her pretty face had lost its carefree adornment, and her smile no longer made me think of day breaking. Be the best of anything you get into. If you want to be a whore, it's your life. Be a damn good one. Don't chippy at anything. Anything worth having is worth working for. It was her version of Polonius's speech to Laertes. With that wisdom in my pouch, I was to go out and buy my future. And that's chapter 7. We'll be back next time to continue our read aloud, read along of Maya Angelou's memoirs. I hope you'll join me for the next video. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let's talk in the comments. I'd love to hear how you're enjoying this, if you're loving it as much as I am. So we'll talk down there, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.